Okay. What's up, everyone? Welcome into Bleacher Talk Live. I am so happy to see so many familiar faces from the team out on the sidelines tonight. I'm going to mute a few of y'all because you are in some environment. So I'm going to keep you muted until we get going here. Thank you, everyone who's watching, joining. Lots of fun games tonight, 4A through 6A semifinals, and some exciting games. Devin, I already see you've got a winning team in the background there, but let's check out some of the highlights from that Horizon Desert Edge game right here. All right. Looks like it was let's start that over. Goes right there. Okay. Looks like it was a little bit of a slower game in the first half. Canyon Floyd gets a field goal in the final minute 20 to make it 3-0 for the Huskies. But Cole Rogers can do that too and puts it through the uprights himself to make it a tied game going into halftime. And I know I've talked a lot about Desert Edge on the recruiting roundup, tons of their roster stacked. Idaho commit Marky McKinnon makes it 10-3 in the middle of the third quarter. So things start heating up, it looks like, at this point in the game. And then if we're talking about Desert Edge, we always talk about Deshaun Warner. He's just one of those guys that's always in the conversation, and he had a super big night. It sounds like this was maybe more than a few third down sacks in this game. But Horizon eventually does make a comeback. We'll see that coming up here in just a second after a little more Deshaun Warner action. First touchdown of the game. Eric Sorensen, thank you for the highlight here in that angle. Jace Ashley to Caden Cox. It's 10-9. Desert Edge, they did put the point after, it looks like, but the Huskies do take the lead right here. 27-yard touchdown, 2-point conversion fails, 15-10 Horizon in the lead. Didn't get to include the final highlight of the game. Oh, yes, I did. Let's check it out right here. So is this our final score? That's what I want to know. How did this game end up? Eric, Devin, you guys are on the sidelines. I'd love to hear your thoughts on tonight's game.
I might be a little loud because I'm in the craziness right now, and I mean it's kind of a party over here. We got everyone kind of hanging out and whatnot, but yeah, this was a wild game because you had, first of all, a Desert Edge missed field goal from about 35 yards out, and so that kind of set the tone. Then Horizon came in, it was 3-0, and at the buzzer, the kid who misses the 35-yard field goal hits a 34. We're tied at 3 going into halftime. And then from there, just kind of exploded because you had a few different guys. I think maybe the most dangerous part of what Desert Edge has right now is the fact that once you contain one of these offensive weapons, then you have 3, 4 more that you need to find a way to stop. Because like Hezekiah Millinger jumping into the end zone, that was great because you didn't know if it was going to go to Hezekiah, if it was going to be Marki McKinnon. So many different guys. Coy Anderson had a number of great plays in this on third down screens. And so there were so many different players that you didn't know who's going to get the ball in important moments. And when it felt like, Horizon stops the run, Horizon stops the throws, okay, there's the next guy up. And that's really what allowed Desert Edge, I feel like, to really diversify themselves offensively and find the victory here in a really, really tight and a really wild game.
Eric, were you finding Devin up in the booth, or you were out on the sidelines the entire game?
Yeah, I was down the sidelines, but I did see Devin before the game, for pre-game chat. I think the one thing, guys, that I noted as this game wore on and as it became more evident that Desert Edge was going to win, I'm by no means comparing Centennial to Horizon, but when Desert Edge played Centennial early in the year, they had a couple opportunities in the red zone that they didn't capitalize on, which cost them the game. As Devin noted, they had a touchdown run by Milliner called back due to a hold. They had a dropped pass in the end zone, which would have been another touchdown. But somehow, Desert Edge found a way to win, something they couldn't do in week 1 against Centennial.
I love this multiverse situation that's happening right now. Very much appreciate it.
We're going to get feedback here. Devin should know that. He's an audio guy.
He's on mute and he knows it, I'm guessing.
Oh, there we go.
All right, so I got to ask, who were the standout guys tonight?
I thought Buda Millender, the junior quarterback from Desert Edge, did a great job making some big throws, but more importantly, he kept a lot of drives alive with his legs. Obviously, the play was breaking down. He had a couple really long scrambles. And at the end, when the game was on the line, the Carters put the ball in his hand. He not only got the 2-point touchdown run on 3rd and 1, but he also, the go-ahead touchdown run. He also got the 2-point conversion, which pushed their advantage to 3. And although Horizon has a really, really good kicker who's headed to ASU, as you guys both well know, it's a tall task to go down the field against a defense led by Deshaun Warner, who knows you're going to pass the ball. Like, Horizon had no choice. They had to get into field goal range. They are not really comfortable in the drop back game. And Desert Edge going back to the championship game.
All right, I think this is a good time for me to also bring in Jordan Ham, because this is going to be Desert Edge's competition coming into the finals week. So let's bring in Jordan Ham, full volume here. Let's get him unmuted. There, you have to unmute yourself. We're figuring this out over here. Let's run the highlights from Jordan's game tonight real quick. Apollo at Higley. Let's take a look. The first play of the game. This is Charlie McGinnis. He's got that correct quarterback right there. Also shows he's got an arm.
Yeah, early on it was a whole lot of Daxon Hall. And then this defense was just so good for Higley. You can tell how experienced they are. Andrew Zuby right here with the pick 6. And this is a group that is, like I said, has played a lot of football together, and they showed why they're the number 1 team or number 1 seed here in 5A. Offense, defense, special teams, as we'll see here in a sec, like they found the end zone early and often, and just a really, really dominant performance here by Higley. So it was fun to watch them. Apollo, I know, had a very special season, and I hope when these players look back, they think of all the W's they were able to put together, because they have had a really special run. And, really post-COVID, Apollo has really, you've seen them kind of take those steps. But it was just all Higley tonight. It was very impressive what they were able to do this evening.
I think the final score I was seeing looked pretty interesting. Did you get a final score out of that game, Gordy?
I did, thanks to our good friend Gridiron. 78-14 was the final score. Higley put up 50 before halftime. So Eddie Zuby is not one to take his foot off the gas. And he's a guy that they looked like they were on a mission. A lot of these teams, high school teams, you'll see sometimes where it's just like they just don't want to make a mistake. And this Higley team was like upset if they didn't make plays. If you kind of get the delineation I'm making here, like they were super confident. It looked like they had been there before, because they're the defending 5A state champions. And they looked like they were on a mission, and that mission now takes them to Sun Devil Stadium, and they're going to take on Desert Edge.
After seeing a little bit of Desert Edge's highlights, hopefully you got to see that on your end.
Yeah.
Spending the first half at Higley, understand why it was time to leave at halftime. Also made for a really nice highlight clip. Sorry, it went black on my end, so hopefully not on anyone else's. But seeing a little bit of Desert Edge and Higley, how do you feel these two teams are going to match up head-to-head in the finals?
I mean, I was even before we got going, I was looking at the box score of when they played earlier this year, and the fact it was an overtime game and it was a super even matchup. I anticipate the same thing. It looked like the real difference in that one in the regular season was Desert Edge was able to force 3 turnovers and Higley wasn't. This evening in the first half, they forced 3 turnovers against Apollo. So I have a feeling it's going to be both teams are going to be looking at that tape very closely, and it's going to be a really close game. And this looked like a hard-fought battle earlier in the year, and it looked like Desert Edge had to scratch and claw to make their way to this game. And if the Carters, that team's going to be locked in, and Eddie Zuby, Higley's going to be locked in too. So I think this is going to be a really, really fun 5A state title game.
I also want to jump to Devin here because I feel like you're our resident West Side reporter. So hopefully you can give us some insight. Desert Edge, Higley, what's this matchup look like in your eyes?
Well, actually, I was at the Desert Edge Higley matchup 2 years ago, I think it was. It might have been last year in the quarterfinals. And I mean, that was just one of those games where it felt like whoever was going to will themselves to a victory was going to be the winner of that game in a quarterfinal matchup. And now here we are 2 years later, and it just feels like once again we have two stout competitors where I feel like what Jordan was talking about, like neither of these guys are going to be able to come out and like sell for a loss is so cliche, but that both of these programs are going to come out and it's going to be either like we saw tonight at Desert Edge, where it's going to be 3-0 at halftime, or it's going to be something like we saw with Higley Apollo, except both teams are going to have 30 points at halftime or something like that, So both teams are high-powered on both sides of the line, and it's just with the talent that you have on both teams, with the coaching that you have on both teams, I think that might be what I'm most excited to see is how both coaching staffs find a way to stop the others on both sides of the ball, because they're just both so intense on both sides of the ball. There's no way I'm going to pick who's going to win that game. They're both way, way, way too good in so many different phases to be able to determine, who's going to have the edge on the other.
I want to quick give a score update. It looks like Red Mountain Brophy is tied at 28 with 1 minute left. So Spurgeon will be jumping in when that game comes to a close, which should make things really interesting. For all three of you, this is the first time you're joining Bleacher Talk this season or the live stream this season. Overall, 4A through 6A, I know you were each at your respective games tonight, but Eric, you have been following Arizona high school football longer than the rest of us. How do you think the 4A through 6A shook out this season? And did you kind of see maybe these finals matchups early on?
I'll start with 4A, and I'll let someone else take the baton for 5A and 6A. My alma mater, Arcadia, is having an unbelievable season. I don't know how they did tonight, but they've been on a great run. I think we've seen the power in Southern Arizona in 4A with Micah Mountain and Canyon del Oro. We all know Canyon del Oro kind of flirted with that open, and then they flirted with an early round exit in the playoffs. So I like the balance. I think 4A was pretty top heavy this year at the top, but I think overall it's just been another great year.
I'll give you the score update. Unfortunately, Arcadia's season has come to an end. They were defeated by Yuma Catholic 42-7, and Yuma Catholic will play Canyon del Oro after they won 23-7 against Micah Mountain. But what a season for Arcadia, and just the way that program has really put themselves on the map this year. Coach Brown, I believe it is over there, has done an excellent job. Have you gone out to a game this season over at Arcadia?
I have not made it out there, but I have been following closely. And it's funny, like I went to Arcadia way back in the Stone Age, and some of my friends are even like talking about like, hey, have you been following this Arcadia football program? I was like, yeah, I'm checking scores. I didn't make it out to a game, but they had a heck of a run. No surprise that they lost tonight, but they had a really, really good season.
Now, Jordy, I'm going to jump to you for 5A since you were out at a fun matchup tonight. But just overall, how do you think this shook out? I know you're kind of on the college football scene, but you've been out calling games here and there, and you're still always plugged and linked in. So how do you think this shook out?
I always feel like 5A kind of gets a bad rap when we talk about the open division and everything like that. And does X 5A team deserve to be in the open and that sort of thing? But I feel like the bracket's always super wide open. And honestly, going into this week, I wouldn't be surprised if any of those four teams advanced, or really any of those four teams were to win the 5A title. So I think we're still, like Devin said, like it's going to be really hard to predict what this 5A state title is going to look like. But I do think it's two very battle-tested teams that are going to head to the final now and get to go head-to-head. And like we said, had a really great matchup earlier in the year, and now we're going to hopefully have a repeat of that. Just as a high school football fan, getting to see close games like that, it's always fun. Also, a quick update, Saguaro beat Sal Point 42-24. So they will be, not sure, I know we're still waiting on Brophy Red Mountain, but they will play the Sabercats in 6A.
And it's time to go to Devin because he's got some excitement happening on the camera right now.
We got some winners going to the 4th ever program state championship appearance. And I was asking you guys on a phone call earlier this week, I was just saying, hey, this is your first graduating class, freshman to senior, year number 4. And you just told me you guys want to cross the finish line.
Finish the race. Finish the race. Just finish the race. It's been a long time coming. Coach E, and I call him Coach E because he already knows why we call him Coach E. He was with us through the grind. He was with us at South Mountain when we were going up to Ashfork and, doing all these camps and getting our boys ready. And, we paid our dues, man. It's 19 years in the game for my brother and I. And, we don't do it the cookie cutter way. We don't do it like everybody else. And so now that we get an opportunity to come to the play for the championship and, make history, be the first African-American head coaches to win a big state, school state championship and just do it here, man. And it's just huge, man, 19 years.
You guys got anything inside the studios?
I actually do, yeah, because I'm always talking about Desert Edge when it comes to the recruiting roundup. Obviously, you've got a bunch of, those star players on your team that we always talk about in media. Who are some of the guys that have really come out of, I don't want to call it the woodworks, but that's what I'm going to call it for the heck of it. Who are some of the guys that have really impressed you this season and you think are kind of like just not getting the credit that they deserve to this point?
We got a big time tight end, Michael O'Halloran. He's a sophomore. He's played since the Cactus game. He's 6'5", 215 pounds. He was blocking his tail off, caught some good balls tonight. Obviously Jaquay Anderson, who transferred to us from Liberty, was played his heart out tonight. Johnny Arvayo, Sean Alator. My son, Julian Gregory, was out here tonight. My nephew, Michael Bryant, was out here doing his thing. Transfer TJ Tucker from Valley Vista came out here and balled out. So, everybody comes to Desert Edge and, they think that that we get transfers and we just get transfers. We just hoard and transfer. We get guys that come here and that going to make an impact. And those guys came into our family, came out here and made an impact. And now we're going to Sun Devil Stadium. And it's big for us at Sun Devil Stadium, coming out there. And like I told the other reporter, it's literally planting a seed. I don't want to, this is not our last stop. I don't believe this is Mark and I's last stop. I want to coach Division I football one day and we want to have our own program. So just being at ASU, being on that sideline, playing for a championship and the bright lights, that's planting the seed for my brother and I. And we just so we can water the seed and hopefully it can grow into something special.
We were just talking about Higley a little bit beforehand. You'll be going up against Higley after they just won against Apollo 78-14. What do you think about this matchup that you're going into?
Man, it's crazy. It's the Bay Bowl Part 3. So they got us in the court. They got us in the quarters last year. We got them at home this year. And so Battle of the Bay, round 3 right here.
The tiebreaker for the championship.
My boy Zuby, you already know what's up. We're gonna lock in. And everybody is saying this is going to be the game of the year. And so we're going to make sure we make it that way.
Shout out to my man, Jordan. I seen you at the ASU game, the ASU and USC game, but you were being a little Hollywood. And so you were around a bunch of people talking. No, I'm just joking. I'm joking.
You guys are the ones always talking. And I don't want to get in your way.
It's always good to see you. It's always good to see Claudia. It's always good to see my man, Devin, for the West Side. And Coach E, man, y'all don't understand. Coach E, Coach, Eric, man, it's family, man. It's family. He's my guy. He's been with us through the beginning, man. I love that man like a brother. So, just for him to be here is something special because he know where we started and now we're here.
A1 since day one. A1 since day one, baby.
One question for you that I addressed when we started this. I saw your game against Centennial, and I saw some of the early first half issues you got against Centennial.
Eric, you're breaking up. You're like 20 feet over there, dude.
But you guys overcame that.
Man, you have to text me. You have to text me. I can't hear you.
Okay.
Give that one more try, Eric, if you want to.
Just shout over to me.
Can you mute Jordan?
Oh, yeah, that's what it was. All right.
I'm muted.
There we go. Yep, there we go. Now we'll be able to hear Eric.
All right, guys, no worries. I was just telling the crew that I saw your game against Centennial, and you had some first half, missed opportunities in the red zone. Tonight, you had a couple more of those missed opportunities, but you were able to overcome that. Does that just show the growth and the maturity of this team coming from week 1 all the way into the semifinals tonight?
Absolutely, man. Like, when we went in the locker room, the message was, we've been here before. We've been here before. And, that first game changed us. It got us rolling. And then we had the little mishap at Cactus, and that changed us. And so it's just building blocks. It's just learning. And, here at Desert Edge, we don't ever lose. We learn. And so every time we misstep and we don't come out victorious, it's a lesson learned. And we just deposit until it's time to cash out. And we cashed out. I told him at halftime, put all your chips in. This is the World Series. The playoffs is the World Series of poker. Every time you go out and you go into a game, put all your chips in, bet on yourself, bet on us coaches, and let's bet on the families, bet at the house, and let the chips fall where they may.
I know this program's much bigger than football, guys, so congratulations. You're building more than a program, you know that.
Hey, love y'all, man. Thank y'all. See you on Friday at 8 p.m. Be there at B Square.
Congrats,
Thank you guys
coaches.
for joining us. Awesome. Thanks, Devin, for getting that interview. And just as a heads up, if I am not on the sidelines, which I will not be this upcoming Friday, it's because I will be having a C-section and having a baby this Friday. So I would love to be there, but I'm having a 4A through a 4A 5A championship baby. All right.
Can't wait until after signing day.
I'll tell her to wait. Oh, we just lost Spurgeon, so I was going to grab him. Okay, well, Devin, Eric, any final thoughts before we let you guys start driving home? Eric, I'll start with you.
I just can't wait for Desert Edge Higley. I mean, I think it's going to be more than a 21-20 game. I think you're going to see a lot of offensive fireworks. And these two coaches, as the Carter said, they know each other well. These programs know each other well. No reason why we shouldn't have another classic next Friday at Sun Devil Stadium.
All right, Devin, final thoughts before we part ways.
So one thing that I don't want to get lost in this game is that the difference in this game tonight was 3 points. It was 18-15. Jamar Beal Goings is responsible in this game for stopping 3 points worth of extra point attempts. He blocked an extra point, and he was on coverage for a stop on a 2-point conversion. There's a chance that if it's not for Beal's Goings, this game isn't won by Desert Edge. It was every phase. It was every level. It was so many different guys on Desert Edge got the job done today, and that's what made the difference. When it comes to the championship game in 5A, Higley's got a bunch of guys. Desert Edge showcased their guys tonight. It's going to come down to which guys show up like Beal's Going did tonight. Like Warner started the game with a sack, ended the game with a sack. Those guys are going to be the difference makers in who wins a championship.
I love it. Eric, Devin, thank you guys so much for jumping on the stream. Start driving home. It's going to be another day of football again tomorrow, as it always is Thanksgiving weekend. Love seeing you guys.
Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you, Claudia. Good to see you, Jordan.
Bye, fellas. Travel safe.
All right. I'll also get some final thoughts from Jordy here. I will give you a quick update along with anyone else who's watching. I just got the update from Spurge that we're heading into overtime, Red Mountain Brophy. So him popping in for a second there was probably to be like, hey, I'm here and I won't be for long because there's a lot going on here. But final thoughts before I let you go as well and start jumping into some final scores and matchups.
Well, really, I wanted to get your thoughts on you've been navigating all of us. Anything surprised you tonight? Anything, or was it kind of like what you expected? You've been around a lot of these teams, so I want to hear Cece's thoughts.
I appreciate that. I'm going to start with honestly what Eric, the matchup Eric wanted to point out. Yuma Catholic, Arcadia. I realized that Yuma Catholic was the 1 seed going into this game, Arcadia the 4 seed. I thought it was going to be a much closer matchup. Arcadia has just been really balling out this season and has been undefeated to this point. I think it's an absolutely huge accomplishment for Arcadia, and I think they're officially back on the map, which it sounds like they were back in the Stone Ages when Eric was there, if that's what he was trying to claim. But I think that was probably the biggest shocker for me, maybe because I also picked Arcadia in quick picks, although I'm not that great at quick picks, unfortunately, because I always say I go off of recruits because I have the disadvantage of doing recruiting roundup, and just 1 + 2 doesn't always equal 3, apparently, because
I was always the same way when that was my exclusive. It was hard to separate all of that and team success, and like you said, one + 2 sometimes equaled 4.
yes. And I'm actually glad that we can have this conversation publicly, because I'm curious what your thoughts are on how that works out, because you look at a team, Desert Edge and Desert Mountain are the two teams specifically this season that I was really eyeballing, because they're really sending off the most guys to Division I colleges. And obviously they've both been successful. So almost a bad example in this sense, obviously, with Desert Mountain having played in the Open. But it just hasn't always worked out that the team that has 6 Division I players has the best season. What do you think it is about the difference between high school football being a successful high school football team and being a Division I recruit?
I think there are so many things that go into it. And honestly, that's the great thing about high school football, is because a lot of these players aren't going to go on to the next level or go to Division I level, but they can look back at their time and be like, hey, I balled out against, X, Y, or Z team, or I won a state championship and my time ended, that my last snaps were as a senior. But I still got to do that. And just finding that mix. And it felt like each and every year, especially when I was really in it, there were a couple of years there where like Centennial was like the standard, but they were only sending off a couple guys off to big time programs and that sort of thing. And it was almost kind of a chicken or egg thing where it's like, well, if they're so successful, why aren't they sending off more? And Centennial obviously wasn't the only example of that, but it was like, why is this school not sending off more? Or is it because it's such a great team culture that lifts everybody up? And that sort of thing. So I think there are a lot of examples, and with recruiting, a lot of times it's, what are you going to be like 4 years from now? That's why you're a blue chip. You haven't peaked yet. So maybe you aren't quite where you need to be as a player right now, but 4 years from now, when you are a young man, when you're 22 years old, you're going to get paid a lot of money to go play. Now you'll see, obviously we've seen so many big time players come through, the Bijans and the Keely Ringos. And like, there was no doubt Christian Kirk was going to be an NFL guy when he was a high school player. But a lot of those, they need to grow into their bodies. They need to, have those physical and mental transformations. So I think that's why it's not a 1-for-1 a lot of times, where it's, and there have been some really good programs that have rattled off back-to-back state championships. And, in terms of the very small cross-section that in the beat that we've covered, we focus on those big time Power 5 recruits. Like, maybe they're just not on those teams, but they can still come together. And again, it's nice that you still have to go play the game. You still have to, it's not at the beginning of the year. It's like, well, they have the most 5-stars, so they're just going to roll through. Like, you still got to go and strap on the helmet and execute on the field. So that's one of the reasons I definitely love high school football.
You brought up a couple points that I do want to just like echo or touch on, because I love that you point out that recruitment isn't necessarily all about how you will be at the beginning of your freshman year of college, and more about who you can develop into. And that kind of also brings up the whole topic around like a 3-star, 4-star, 5-star, like all of that is based on your potential to be a first, second round draft pick versus what your potential is. Like, you're not going into Ole Miss as a 4-star. You are going into it expected to be a 4-star at some point in your career. And it's kind of just interesting that that's the approach that we go at, but it also does make sense because it's all about development. And then you brought up Centennial, which they will be playing in the Open semifinals tomorrow against Basha. And you look at those two teams and which one is sending more guys to Division I programs? It's Basha, but it's 2 and 3 seed. And it's kind of like, okay, well, then is Centennial also one of those schools that's just historically really, really well, does really, really well, but they just don't have as many recruits this season, but they're in the exact same position as Basha tomorrow.
Totally. And you obviously know this, but Centennial does have quite a few guys that will be going to the next level, but it is, it is easy just to start offer counting or going, and like you said, with the stars, like it's a good, just like barometer, just to like have guys in a zip code. But when you start then making that the label for that certain player, that's where you can run into so many issues, and you can see so many guys who developed late and are thriving. I mean, Brock Purdy's the best example. There's never going to be another Brock Purdy that comes through Arizona, but we've seen a lot of guys that have, maybe spent 2 years at a JUCO, or, the kind of the new route now with the transfer portal is go to a smaller school. Maybe you get some good tape and then you're able to jump to, maybe a bigger school, or, kind of reassess things after your freshman or sophomore year. And the jump it feels like, even as a student, but also as, especially as an athlete, the jump from 18 to 19 for some people is monumental. The maturity that you develop, and both physically and mentally. So like, again, just because you're labeled a certain star at a certain point, or you're committed to a certain program that maybe isn't as high as you want, that doesn't mean that, that's your path and you're stuck on it forever. And it's, there are no exits or anything like that. Like there's so much football to be played, so much development to be had, on the field and off the field.
All right, I've got a couple quick hits before you leave. Now that there's less pressure, you just saw Higley tonight pretty much demolish Apollo. You just saw the Carter brothers. You heard from Eric. You heard from Devin. Who's winning, Higley or Desert Edge?
Oh man, I mean, this week I just kind of parachuted in and got to see some more football than I usually do. I don't know. I really know you're putting the pressure on me. You're making me make a decision. But I'll put it this way: if Higley plays like they did tonight, it's going to be really hard to beat them. Like they just came in. Like I said, it wasn't like, all right, we're going to try to contain Apollo. It was like, no, we're going to go try to dominate and get turnovers and score very easily. And so if they can put out the type of product that they did tonight, like it's going to be Desert Edge will have their hands full. Again, I haven't really seen much of Desert Edge outside of the preseason camps, so I can't speak, give a full educated prediction on this, but based on what I've seen, if they can get to that, if Higley can get to that standard, and again, a team that has been there before and knows the ups and downs of a state championship run, like I think that pays dividends for a lot of these players.
One last guy and one last thing I want to bring up. Daxon Hall sounds like he had at least 4 touchdowns tonight. I believe you also got to cover his brother Drayson when he was playing there. What similarities do you see in them? I'm bringing this up because we were just talking recruiting, and Daxon, his plans are, he just got an opportunity to play at NAU, but he will be going on a mission just like his brother did, eventually going to NAU. Just kind of want to hear the contrast because you got to see both of them now.
Claudia, it was so fun. Like, because at first I didn't quite put together that they were brothers. Like, obviously they are. But I just had a moment of like, oh yeah, I remember hearing about Daxon and that sort of thing. And you see, he's wearing the exact same number, similar build, same shiftiness. It was like 2018 all over again. And Drayson was one of my favorites to cover. And I know you've spoke to him. He was a part of your documentary, like one of the best dudes just to kind of come through, and always had like great maturity. And I'm sure Daxon is the same way. So it was like funny and cool to see the way that he, kind of navigates his way through blockers and through the front seven of the defense, because it's exactly like Drayson did. And, obviously Coach Zuby's very familiar with that family. So I'm sure he's putting him in similar situations that Drayson had. And it was just like, yep, we're going to zoom through this and, make sure there are big chunk plays and that sort of thing. So that was really cool. So before I go, I got some questions for you now.
All right.
So this open division, these remaining four, what are your thoughts? Any, I won't force you to make a prediction, but
lots of predictions this season. Have they changed a couple of times? Yes. All right. Continue on.
The X factors, what's going to come down to the difference for Highland and Liberty tomorrow and Centennial and Basha?
Okay. I'll start with Highland Liberty because I've been very high on Liberty all season long. I'm also going to bring Spurgeon because he's here now as well. And he will have a little bit to add on the Highland end of things. I'll put it muted for a moment. Liberty this season, I feel like, is the Liberty that we have seen for the last few years, at least since I and probably Spurge has been covering Arizona high school football, but they finally just surpassed that like barrier that they've kind of been held up against the last few years. I think they have very confident seniors this year. Mm-hmm. I think the challenge, and I always look at this from like a big picture perspective, just because I'm not the analyst type. The biggest thing here is that these are the two most hungry teams, in my opinion, because I think Liberty has been slightly underrated for the last few seasons, and so has Highland because they've wanted to be in the open for the last several seasons as well. I would have loved to see this as an like open division finals matchup because I think it would have been probably the most exciting one. But I think it's just going to come down to the offensive game for Liberty. I think their offense is just incredible between Navi, his receivers, his running backs. I mean, I think he's on his A game and he's hungry. And I only got to see Highland one time this season, and it was against Basha. And the only disadvantage is, which was also a great advantage, was I spent the entire game with Miles Lockhart's mom, who is the coolest person ever. Little distracting from the game, but totally appreciated it. But it was a complete comeback game for Highland. So I think that if Liberty can get a jump start and hold on to a decent lead, then I think that's their best bet because Highland does know how to make a comeback. Between Basha and Centennial, it's hard for me. I think this could go either way because I think Centennial's defense against Basha's offense is probably the most exciting matchup if we're not looking at the big picture and we're actually looking at the game itself. But I think all along I've kind of been riding on Liberty winning the Open this season, and I keep coming back to that. And I said early on it was going to be Liberty Centennial, but I think it's going to be Liberty somebody.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Also, one last thought. When was the last time it's a semifinals weekend and Chandler and Hamilton aren't playing in a game? That's wild to me. I think that speaks more to how good Arizona has become. But I know Spurge has some breaking news, so I will get out of the way now and let him jump in.
Jordy, thank you so much for jumping on the stream tonight.
Of course. Have fun, guys.
Thanks, Jordy. Holding it down the fort. Awesome. Crazy game here, Claudia. Red Mountain wins it in overtime, 36-35. Scores the touchdown, goes for two. Zay Savoy had 4 touchdowns in this one, or 3 touchdowns, I believe, and ends up being the hero at the end of the game. So Coach Ender's really shown that they belong. And going for 2 in overtime when they could have just tied it up says a lot about how confident this team is. They've got this chip on their shoulder. They know no one's been picking them. And here they are as a 12 seed heading off to a championship next week.
How did you see that? Do you have anyone there for interviews before I potentially?
Yeah, probably going to look for Zay and Kyle while we're chatting right here. I'm going to see if I can grab one of them. Zay's being interviewed right now by a couple people, so I might sneak over and grab him. Keep my eyes on Kyle Enders as well. Told him we'd talk, so I'll find him eventually. But yeah, crazy night of high school football, huh?
I'm going to do us all a favor, and I've only got like first half and then some highlights from Twitter, but I'm going to pull those up so everyone can take a look real quick. Wait, let's go to a different screen real quick. All right, let's take a look here. This is thanks to Spurgeon. It looks like this is the first touchdown of the game. Charlie McGinnis, I believe it is. Which this is the highlights I started to play earlier. So for anyone who is watching earlier and it was the wrong highlights, my bad. Good arm here as well, makes it 14-0 in the first quarter right there. That's Jacob Buggy on the receiving end. Then next highlight looks like it's a handoff to Carlos Estrada, skates his way into the end zone, makes it 21-0. Less than 7 minutes left in the first half at this point. So 21-0. And then we already know the end result. We end up in overtime. I mean, what a game. Red Mountain starts to make a comeback here, though, it looks like. Cody Cameron, thank you for the highlight here to Simon Lopez. Of Simon Lopez, I should say. And then, yeah, it looks like Red Mountain had the momentum going into halftime. So I don't know about you, Spurge, but was that kind of, from your perspective, the turning point? Was it at halftime that you kind of saw things shift?
Good time for one more. I'm live right now on the show. Cool. Hold on. Before we get to that, Claudia, I've got Zay here with me. And Zay, I mean, first off, some may call this a Cinderella story, Cinderella team. You guys feel different, though, right?
I feel like some of the mistakes that we made at the beginning of the season, we should have capitalized on our defense playing great. When our offense gets going, it gives everybody momentum. So offense gets going, defense gets going, special teams gets going. We have the momentum, and we just need to keep riding it. We had the momentum as soon as we beat Mountain View. We beat Pinnacle. We beat Brophy. And we're going to beat Saguaro. So we need to keep on the momentum and keep going. At the start of the game, we need to come out strong so we can keep the momentum going.
What's the sense knowing that this coaching staff, this program's been building towards this for years now, constantly getting to the semifinals, not getting over the hump, and now you guys are the team to get over the hump?
I feel like it's fitting. Some of the stories these guys on our team have, they're sad stories. And I feel like when you have people who have backstories and sad beginnings, something good's going to come to them. God's going to bless them with something to come. And this may just be it. This may just be what everybody needs. This may just be the opportunity that everybody gets to keep going.
Last thing for you, 2-point conversion. You know it's coming to you.
Yeah.
They call timeout. You still know it's coming to you.
Yeah.
What's it say about this team and the trust in you that in that situation, they want to just end the game and go to you in that moment?
I love that they trust in me, but you got to understand that I trust in my O-line. I trust in the receivers to not get a false start. I trust in everybody to be on the ball when they need to be. I trust that everybody makes the right play calls and all this. I trust in them so they can trust in me. If I get on them, they can get on me too and put the ball in my hands, and I trust in them to block for me. So trust goes both ways, and I don't think it's just them trusting me. It's them trusting everybody on the team.
Zay, thank you so much. Best of luck next weekend.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Zay Savoy, stand-up guy, one of the top running backs in the state. Lots of teammates giving him his flowers. They got Coach Kyle right here around the corner, too. He's taking photos. I'll pull him away, and we'll go somewhere a little quieter for a second.
Perfect. Well, Spurge, overall, who are the guys that stuck out to you in tonight's game? I mean, I feel like even on both ends of the ball, despite our winner.
Yeah, Jamison Wade, sophomore linebacker, was making plays all over the field. Really, the whole group was making big plays as they typically do. I mean, linebacking is just a position group that has been a strength of this team all year. Like Zay was saying, the defense has always been there. The offense had to figure it out. And then Simon Lopez, I was impressed with him all the way back in week 1. Today, made some crazy plays. I didn't get a chance to post it yet. I'll have to post it later and show it. But before they tied the game, he made one of the most magical plays I've seen in the pocket on a high school field in a long time. Like, he was able to avoid a couple of sacks and deliver a ball downfield against defensive pass interference and pick up like 40 yards. So that was incredible. And the offensive line was great as well. So Cody Cameron was okay as well. He did all right.
We gave him a shout out for a highlight or two as well, as usual. All right, who we grab? We're getting Coach Enders here shortly.
Yeah, we will have him in just a second.
All right, I'm gonna run through some.
Coach, got a minute? Let me Claudia live real quick. Trying some new stuff over here. We'll pull you away. All right, Claudia. You know who it is. Coach Enders. He's here. So we're live right now, but Coach, so I asked this as A2. So some may say Cinderella story, Cinderella team.
Yeah.
I think you guys feel a little differently, right?
Yeah, we definitely feel differently. I mean, we had a tough schedule all year. We've lost to a bunch of open teams right there at the end. Even Helix out in California is an open team.
Mm-hmm.
We played everybody tough, and we knew playing in a region like ours and playing a tough schedule that it would pay off in the end. And the kids they show up every Monday to work, and they work hard. Nobody ever doubted. 21-0, they're on the sidelines talking about, guys, they're soft up front. We got them. We got to pick up the group. So, like, yeah, you can say a 12 seed, you win one more game, and we're sitting at a 6 seed. It's a testament to how good the football is around here. Anybody can beat anybody on any given day. Really well-coached teams, tough opponents, and we got hot at the right time, and things are falling our way. And earlier in the year, they weren't.
Going for 2 in overtime, was that something that's pretty much, if that situation comes up, you already know that's the plan, or was that something
we knew that was the plan the minute overtime happened, just because the drive after halftime was the kids were asking for it. We talk about being tough and gritty and physical and kind of making things we call ourselves the junkyard dogs, making it kind of an ugly battle. And we said we're going to line up and run right at them, and that's what we did. So why would it be any different when we get the ball from the 3-yard line? If we think we're built on that, we're going to line up and run right at you. And that's what we did. And the kids the minute we said we're going for 2, we told them before we went out there for the 3 or 4 plays, we said, hey, regardless, we're going for 2, and they were amped. And that's what they wanted.
Claudia, you had a question, right?
Yeah, I do. You brought up those games towards the end of the season that you lost against open division teams and kind of having that fall in the seeding that you were in. How much of an advantage do you think it really was actually, though, potentially playing those teams at the end of the season to set you up for
I mean, with the coaching staff that I have, I got the best coaching staff in the state. I got guys, they're all really close friends of mine. We all stuck together. Normally when you lose 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, it starts the coaching staff. They start doing this and pointing fingers, and it sucks to lose. We're all competitive people. And I give them all the credit in the world because they stuck together. They stuck no offense versus defense. Everybody believed in each other. And yeah, you have to play a battle-tested schedule so you're set up for these. You can't simulate this atmosphere or anything like this in practice. I don't care if you practice overtime, if you practice situational stuff. And we said that when our schedule came out. Guys, we have a tough road. Learn from each loss or win and just get better every week. And if you get hot at the right time, this is what can happen. And like I said, it's a true testament to my coaching staff and these players. They never, ever doubted losing a heartbreaker to ALA Queen Creek at the end. Being battle tested right there, 3-4 minutes, having a lead against Highland and losing it. All those games set us up for something like this. Adversity really brought out the grittiness in this team.
My last question for you: You're going up against Saguaro next week, which they were obviously in the Open championship last season. How exciting is that for your players, knowing that you're ending up against one of the best teams in the state?
I'll be honest, until you said Saguaro, our kids wouldn't. You could say we're playing Saguaro, any team. It's no different to these guys. To me, obviously, I have respect for all these teams. We've seen some film on them. We've had some common opponents. They're a really good football team, well coached. And like you said, anybody that's knows Arizona football or been around Arizona football, you say Saguaro, and they're a very, very good football team and program. I don't know if we've ever played them in our school history, so why not the first time in a state championship?
Keeping receipts, checking out all that stuff as well.
Oh, yeah. You know it.
All right, Coach. Thank you. Well, I will be there. Claudia will be on mom duty by then, huh?
Yes, I will.
We'll be out there, but
I wish you the best.
Thank you so
Thanks a lot
much.
for everything, guys. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. See you next week. Absolutely.
All right, Jordy, we're
one of the best coaches in the state. Ever since he took over last year, I know we've gotten a chance to get to know him pretty well. Just very insightful, very just caring of all his players, caring of the Arizona high school football community as well, and just so knowledgeable with everything he brings. So really excited for this team that they get over the hump after I think it was 2 or 3 straight years in the semis. I think this was their 3rd consecutive 6A semifinal appearance. So for them to get there, that's going to be really remarkable for this program.
Spurge, I've got to ask you, because you have seen Red Mountain and you've seen Saguaro, which are both teams I have not seen this season. What excites you about? Oh, we lost him. All right. I'll hang in here for a second and see if we can get him back on. In the meanwhile, I'm going to go over some finals and matchups. As a reminder, Yuma Catholic defeated Arcadia 42-7. They will go up against Canyon del Oro, after defeating Mika Mountain 23-7. Moving over to 5A, Higley. Obviously, that was a tough game for Apollo over there. Higley 178-14. And Desert Edge defeated Horizon 18-15. So that'll be Desert Edge and Higley in the 5A. And then lastly, moving over to 6A, if he doesn't jump back on, that's okay. We'll call it a night at that. But obviously, Brophy, Red Mountain, fun game over there. It's going to be Red Mountain against Saguaro next week. We were just hearing from Coach Enders on that. Let me check in and see if Spurge is going to make it back in. If not, we're going to call it a night. And we can check out those highlights again. Let's do that. As we heard, that game went into overtime. So that's only about half the highlights that I'm sure we'll have from Spurge when it's all said and done. That's going to do it for this live edition of Bleacher Talk. Thank you guys so much for joining us. And we'll see you next week during the finals.